Hi, my name is Benny Johnson. As some of you know, I've been struggling with addiction. However, I decided to change my life and went into recovery. I started this podcast 90 Days Clean, and I want to take you along in my journey. What does lie ahead of me? Let me be frank, I do not know. Will I ever drink again? I do not know. This is how Stairway to Redemption was born. It is my search for answer in a real-time process of what is going to work for me. It is then my aspiration to help you figure out what's going to work for you. It is our journey together. Welcome to another episode of Stairway to Redemption, guys. This week I have someone that I admire for his tenacity, his strength, and also the fact that he's a fellow Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I swear that's not the only reason why he's on the podcast. You will still soon know why. He's one of the founder of a group that meets on the beach, a fellowship group. Why on the beach? Well, because the group was founded during COVID. At the time, even in-person meetings were not allowed and almost non-existent. He understood that some of us could not stay sober with just online meetings, but had to meet in person, and he had to defy that order. So, guys, I give you Joe. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing really good today.
Yeah.
Clean and sober another day and enjoying my life to the fullest.
That's great. So for those who listen to the podcast, they know the first thing is the state of the mind address. So what's going on in your life? Like we are at the end of the summer. Tomorrow is Labor Day. So what do you have cooking?
So what we got planned for our group, we meet on the beach 7 days a week. This is the end of the summer party. We call it our end of the summer bash. And we're going to have a bunch of food, fun, and fellowship from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon or so, and enjoy the beach and all the beautiful serenity that it brings us down here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. All right. Let's start with the natural question. What's your story? How you ended up in the rooms? In recovery.
Sure. So, like I said, I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, and I found 12-step recovery through a friend of mine. I started drinking and getting high when I was about 12 years old, and by the time I was 14, I realized I had a problem. I didn't want to quit. I wanted to figure out how I could control it because the only time I felt good was when I was drunk or high, and the idea of not having that really scared me. Not having that that buffer between me and reality really kind of scared me. So I wanted to try to figure out how could I drink and not get in trouble. How could I use drugs and not destroy my life? And I tried to do that for the next 10 years until I was 22. And I progressed through the normal things. I started smoking weed and drinking beer, and then I went into harder liquor, vodka and Bacardi, and I loved Bacardi 151 because I didn't have all the calories and it got me drunk faster. By the time I was 17 years old, I was drinking about a quart and a half of vodka a night on the summer, and my life was kind of spinning out of control. I was getting arrested a lot. And around the same time, I found cocaine, and crack cocaine specifically was a large part of the epidemic down here in Long Island. So that became something that me and a bunch of my friends used on a pretty regular basis, and very quickly, crack cocaine took over my life, and it really brought me to places that I never thought I would be. Robbing people, stealing, from my family, lying, selling myself on the street, whatever it took to continue to do more is what I did. And, by the time I was 22 years old, I was facing a lot of time in prison, for drinking and fighting and DWIs and, some drug possession charge that I had. And a friend of mine introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous, and to NA, and I started to attend meetings, and I didn't get sober right away. I didn't get clean right away. Um, But about a year later, when I started to work the 12-step program, I started not to struggle with drinking and getting high anymore, and gain control, in a way over my disease. And the process for me was I had to go through a fourth and a fifth step and talk about what was really chewing me up inside. I had to find prayer and meditation as part of my daily activities, and the big part is helping other people. Which I kind of think leads into you know what we were talking about to begin with, about how we and why we started the meeting, down here on the beach. Um, and I think it was an important thing. Is we believe that recovery is essential. And other people didn't. It was essential to keep the liquor stores open, but not to keep recovery open.
Yeah, right.
So there were some people who disagreed with that, and there were people all over, the states and everywhere who disagreed with it. Meetings popped up in parks and on beaches and in parking lots, and we were just one that did it down here, and it was actually a fellow member of one of the groups that I attend. He started the meeting, and within a week, we had about 120 people down here. And it wasn't too long after that the cops came and broke us up. We had to move a few blocks down and keep it a little smaller, but we were persistent and used the word tenacity when you were describing me, and I would say the whole group and the whole process was very tenacious, in the sense that we kept showing up. We showed up when it was cold, when it was raining, and I'm not going to mention the name of the group, but the name of the group is important to us because of it's just that mindset that nothing's going to stop us from meeting and trying to help each other. There's lots of roads to recovery. We believe in the road that we have traveled, and so we want to try to provide people with insight and direction and help if they want that way out. So we showed up here every day for people, and we provided some stability and some continuity to how the meetings are run. And we're always here. We have a certain way about what we do, and we try to get people to be involved. Our group is very much into participation, and so we try to keep the shares to a minimum. This way everybody has an opportunity to participate, and you don't get 2 or 3 or 4 people dominating a meeting. You want everybody to feel like they belong. We also have a tradition here that when people come, we back up and we let them in the circle. We want everybody to feel a part of and not separate from. So that's really important to us as a group. And it was just it was a huge thing for me as a person and as somebody in recovery, because the whole time that I was trying to help keep this group moving and help other people, it was keeping me distracted from me drinking and me getting high. And that's one of the things that we do in recovery. The 12-step in any of the 12-step recovery processes is trying to pass this message along to the newcomer, and that is how that we ensure our recovery ourselves.
All right, like beautifully said, and I really admire, like you say, like the tenacity of it. Question: what was it in like online meeting and Zoom meeting that you think were lacking, and you had to intervene and still meet in person?
Well, to tell you the truth, this meeting started before online meetings. It started the day after the governor, it wasn't the governor in Nassau County, but it was after the officials shut down Nassau County. The next day, we were on the beach having a meeting. So it wasn't that we didn't want to do online meetings. They had been already going on. They've been going on for a long time, but we started the live meeting right away. So it wasn't as opposed to going online. They shut the indoor meeting down, and the next day we were here on the beach meeting. So it wasn't anything in particular about an online meeting. I had at that point in my life, I had never been to an online meeting.
Yeah.
But there's something about looking at a person and seeing them when they're talking that is immensely important to me. I can tell when somebody's telling the truth because I can see them shake,
Yeah.
especially newcomers. You see them, you can see the pain, you can feel the pain, you can hear it. And, for me, I just thought it was super important to have that kind of contact, that those people knew that we were still here for them and that we would show up every day at the same time. If it was raining or if it was whatever out, just like the reality, if it was raining out, it wouldn't stop me from drinking or getting high. If it was snowing out, I would still go pop and I would still go to the liquor store. So it's the same kind of thing with this. Even though it was raining out some days, we showed up on the beach in the rain. We went under the boardwalk. We did whatever we had to do to provide people with a safe place to come and talk about the importance of not picking up the first drink, the first drug, the first whatever, because all of our meetings are open meetings. So anybody with any kind of 12-step process would be allowed here, and welcome. So we had Al-Anons, we had Overeaters, we had Narcotics Anonymous, we had Opiates Anonymous people here. So we we really wanted to open this up to anybody who wanted to talk about a 12-step process as a way of recovery and not limit it to just one or the other alcoholics or drug addicts or whatever. We just really wanted this to be open to everybody.
Yeah, I noticed that especially about this group, how particular it is. They're like you allow things in this group that like not necessarily allow in the other 12 steps group. Especially the one that comes to mind the most of the time is crosstalk is allowed as long as you're respectful. Um, can you tell me why, especially that one, you wanted to allow crosstalk?
Well, I'll talk about why, as a group, you're allowed to do different things in different meetings because all
Yeah.
groups are autonomous,
Uh-huh.
which means each group is allowed to have its own flavor.
Yeah.
So some groups will have, only open meetings, and some groups will have closed, and some groups will be step meetings or literature meetings, and some groups in the Alcoholics Anonymous read the blue card, which is a singleness of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and others don't. So groups are allowed to decide on their own how they want to present the message,
Mm-hmm.
as long as they don't influence AA or NA or OPA as a whole, right? So why we thought it was important and why we did what we did is because there were people who had no access to any of those other fellowships, and we didn't want to limit them to saying, well, you're not, especially in this case, somebody who has only a drug problem is really not somebody who can go to a closed meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, because closed meetings are meant for people who have a problem with alcohol, right? Our meetings are open, so anybody who wants to hear a 12-step message, if it's about family members in Al-Anon or your own addiction or your own alcoholism, everybody's welcome here. So we allow literature to be read from other places. We just ask people to be mindful about that. And you also asked about the crosstalk.
Mm-hmm.
So when we first started, there were a very limited amount of us. There was only 3 or 4 of us at first.
Yeah.
So if there was no crosstalk, there'd be no meeting, really. Right? Basically, we're sitting together and having a conversation about what it takes to remain clean and sober through a tough time, which COVID was. Lots of us lost our jobs. Lots of us had no money coming in. Lots of us had way too much free time. The isolation, the strain on relationships were tremendous. So if we weren't having the back and forth conversation, we really weren't having the meeting. So I think it's just the mindfulness is the super importance about the crosstalk. If I'm sharing about me losing my job, and then you can identify with that, and then you share about you losing your job, that in essence is crosstalk.
Yeah.
But if you point out that I could do more about getting a new job or whatever, then you're not being mindful, you're being judgmental. And that's what we try to stay away from. Not that we're perfect, because we're not perfect people, right? And we all try to remember that we've all made mistakes in that in that realm, as far as trying to be supportive and sometimes coming off like we might be a know-it-all, or whatever. Especially some of us who have a lot of experience and time in recovery, it can come off that way.
Are you talking
Uh,
about somebody I
oh, I'm
know?
talking about me in particular. I
Of
have
course.
I have a tendency to be a bit of a, an opinionated person, but I really have tried to watch, what I say and how I say it to people. When I came into recovery, there was a much more in your face, pointing out your character flaws
Yeah.
mentality than there is today. And I'm not saying that one way is better than the other, because I didn't particularly love when guys pointed out my character flaws, 30 something years ago. But I also see the value of people that had something I wanted, kind of not letting me, wallow in bullshit.
Yeah.
To not, I don't want to curse, but
I
to
mean, we
not,
can curse.
that's, I mean, just
Yeah.
in a sense, like, to not sit here and come off with excuses and alibis for my behavior. They would kind of call you out on it. You know what I mean? So, you got to worry about it because people can get offended, but we always try to temper any kind of crosstalk with, the mindfulness. And the part is that we don't want anybody to drink or drug or overeat or oversex or gamble. We don't want anybody to do any of those things. And anything we can do to try to help you not do those things,
Yeah.
you can color me there.
Yeah.
Right? Just color me in. I'm there. I'm there to try to help people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if I have to point something out that I see and I think I'm being honest with you, that's one thing. It's always tempered with, am I being mindful? Am I being caring?
Yeah.
Am I being respectful? And I can't say that I've always been those three things all at the same time. And, and I've definitely stepped out of line here or there in the
Yeah.
way that I may have responded. But hopefully the people realize that, or, I went to him as soon as I could and went to him and said, my only aim is to be helpful.
Yeah.
So if I stepped out of line and said something, you didn't appreciate, I'm sorry. And, and I try to move on from that.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't take any issues with like that tough love way of thinking because that's like the household I was bringing. Like my mom is like a tough, cookie to say the least. So like I know where you're coming from when we talk personally. I see also like how I understand other people when they're like, you know, they buckle a little bit because they're not used to that kind of talk. But like it reminds me of one of the talk we had like last summer when I was talking to you about the early days of my sobriety that I was plagued with like guilt because now that I was sober for like a certain amount of months, I wanted to apologize to people. I was like because sometimes I couldn't sleep because like every night there were like memories of things of I'm like, oh shit, I've done that. Oh shit, I totally forgot I've done this. And we are talking about that. And I wanted to ask you, like, do you remember in your early days in recovery, what were like the things that were plaguing you?
I
Because
had
now, yeah,
I had tremendous amounts of guilt for teaching and showing my younger brothers a way of life that did nothing but cause them harm.
yeah,
I grew up in a pretty violent home, and there wasn't a lot of stability. And my brothers looked up to me. My two younger brothers looked up to me, and I presented them with this stage character of tough guy, not scared of anything, dealing drugs, getting arrested, smoking weed, drinking beer, doing cocaine. I presented them with this like this was fun, and I was having a great time.
mm-hmm.
And when they started to follow me down that path, I really felt tremendous guilt and shame about that. You know what I mean? That look what I'm doing to my little brothers. Like,
Yeah,
I can't believe, So my early recovery, a lot of it was focused on bringing this 12-step message to my family.
mm-hmm.
I got an older brother and two younger brothers. They are all in recovery today with varying degrees of time. Some of them are still, you know, early in recovery process,
Mm-hmm.
maybe under a year. And my another brother of mine is coming up on like 22 years. So I've gotten a chance to show them another way of life and to present which was freely given to me. And then have them follow me in here and have their own path. It's important to remember it's very hard, the 12-step family,
Yeah,
because there's so many so easy to point out all our character flaws and get at each other. But the idea that I wasn't drinking and getting high anymore, and I wasn't getting arrested, and I was living a good life, they started to see that, and then they started to want to come here, and participate. And I've tried never to push this way of life on them. I've just always tried to be honest about where I am in the process, and that regardless of what's going on in my life, I'm doing far better than I ever did when I was drinking and getting high.
Yeah.
I don't have any warrants out. Nobody's hunting me down.
Yeah.
I'm not having an affair on my wife. You know what I mean? Like, my life is pretty simple and pretty good. I am struggling with a health issue. I
We're
got
gonna talk
injured.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you want to talk about it later, or you want to talk about it now?
No, yeah,
Oh,
right
so-
now if you want,
so-
I can ask you the question
Okay.
right away. Then like your health issue, you had the back surgery, this year, and you're coming up on 33 years, and you went through a serious like tough pain time. So what were the strategies or like coping mechanism that have been the most effective for you to maintain your sobriety during that time?
So I'll talk quickly about my injury.
Yeah.
I had spinal fusion in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and because I'm hard headed, I went back to doing a lot of the activities I used to do, and I ended up having to go back in for spinal surgery in November of 2022, and it didn't work as well. I had to go back in for an epidural, and I ended up with an infection in my spinal canal. I woke up out of that um, surgery. I woke up from that partially paralyzed from my chest down. I can't walk correctly. I'm in a lot of pain in my right arm, in the middle of my back. So it has been a huge struggle for me.
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, I'm not the person I was prior to the injury. So that has been really tough also, to wake up with that kind of fear that I'm never going to walk again. And it's affected every aspect of my life, my financial, my emotional, my marital. It's
Mm-hmm.
affected every relationship I have. You know, um, to deal with that kind of fear and uncomfortability, I basically have used the same process that I used to get clean and sober. I admitted I was powerless over my injury.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that by seeking a higher power and working the 12 steps that I work in my life, I get clarity and I get power to try to overcome these things. I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to God as I understand Him. I did an inventory about what I can control and what I can't, and I looked at what was going on in me, and what I really seen more than I had ever seen in my life was self-centeredness, self-pity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was drowning in self-pity. It was so amazing. I had never felt this much in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had my problems, and if you were feeling like me, and blah blah blah, which were true to some extent,
Yeah.
but they don't get me anywhere. They only get me deeper in the hole. I was just digging the hole deeper, right? We talk about it. You're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So by living in the problem, I was just making the hole bigger. And I realized that my solution is always the same for me, is a spiritual solution that I've decided to live my life by. So at step three, I made that decision. I reaffirmed that decision again. I started to look for my flaws. I made a list of persons I had hurt with my behavior, which was very limited. It was basically my wife and my children were the only persons I had hurt through my behavior at that time. And then I rededicated myself to helping others in recovery.
Yeah.
And that is what pulled me out of it, because whenever I'm working with somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking about myself as much. I'm
Yeah.
not living in my fear and my self pity, and I'm constantly reminded how good a life I have.
Mm-hmm.
For people like me, and not everybody is the same in recovery. We all have different degrees.
Mm-hmm.
For people like me, any day I'm not in jail is a good day.
Yeah.
Guys like me end up spending a lot of time in jail, and because of this 12-step process, and a decision to try to find a higher power, and then to try to help people,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found it necessary to drink and get high and end up in jail again. So I guess that same process I used to not drink and not get high, I decided to use on this new problem, and it has helped me tremendously. It's not that I still don't have some self-pity and some fear. I definitely do. I would love to wake up tomorrow and feel like I used to 7 months ago, where my legs both work and my arm works and I'm not in pain and I'm not in discomfort, but the reality is that's probably not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
I just have to be patient. I have to keep doing the things that the doctors recommend and trying to take it easy.
Yeah.
It's not always easy,
Yeah.
right? Doctors tell you to take it slow, and I'm a go-getter. I want to work harder. And I just, the group has helped me tremendous. Having this group to come to every day and to talk to the people that are here and to express my fears and my concerns, and to get so many people telling me, that they're praying for me, and they're hoping the best for me. Just all that positive energy that they're feeding me helps me get out of it. And I have faith that even if physically I don't get any better, as long as I get better emotionally and spiritually, I'll be able to handle whatever comes my way.
Yeah.
I might not like it at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but there's things that happen in my life that I don't like, and I have to learn to live with.
Yeah.
If I'm only going to stay sober and stay clean, if I get my way, I'm probably not going to stay clean and sober, because you don't always get your way.
Yeah.
So, but it's learning to live with, difficult situations, right? Because life is tough, man. Life can be very tough.
Yeah.
And especially as we get older. When I came here, I was a 22-year-old man.
Yeah.
Physically sound with my whole future ahead of me. And here I am, I'm on the back nine. Maybe I'm actually on hole 11 on the back nine, and I'm stumbling towards,
Come on, man.
the next fairway.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just in physicality.
Yeah.
Stumbling, I'm moving slow, but I'm still moving.
Yeah.
It hasn't dampened my spirit about what I believe this 12-step process can do for people, what it can do for me. I still have tremendous hope and faith that at the end of the day, I'm going to be in a better place.
Yeah, I really love that about you. And like me personally, what I think about the situation is like, I'm gonna tell you, you're entitled to feel the way you feel. Especially me, because I don't know what you went through. I never had the surgery you went through, and I noticed something about you, that like you are still coming, but not asking for help. And sometimes, man, I just wanted to be your Joe, chill, man. Like, let people help you, especially with physical stuff, like lifting books. Like, it doesn't matter, but like I could sense that part of you were like, nah, man, I'm not gonna ask for shit, like.
It's funny you said that, because when we were coming onto the beach today, I was carrying 2 chairs.
Yeah.
And one of the other members walked up to me. He goes, "Hey, I could carry that." And I was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah.
And then I took 2 steps and I said, "You know what? Thank you very much." And I handed him the chair.
Yeah.
I was like, "No, this is silly. Why would I do this to myself again?" It is a struggle for me to carry the 2 chairs onto the beach right now. And it's silly of me not to allow somebody to help me.
Yeah.
It helps them and it helps me.
Yeah.
Right? Because we want to be of service. We talk about that in the 12 step. Being of service to people. He's being of service. He's helping me carry the chairs on, which is difficult for me. And it's ego puncturing for me to allow another man to carry the chair on the beach. I'm good.
Yeah.
I know, because we're taught that I'm good. I don't need another guy to help.
Especially like you said, your upbringing, being the older brother to your 2 brother, being tough guy, Irish family, boxer, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I can see, but like, I can see the journey where like you're trying to find the perfect balance between being who you are and not trying to have to prove anything else.
Right. Being true to yourself.
Yeah.
But, having humility.
Yeah.
Right. I need help. I do need help. I always pictured myself. We'll talk about the Steelers for a brief moment. I always pictured myself as a smaller Jack Lambert. You know what I mean? I was missing some teeth for a while, so I definitely looked like Jack Lambert. But I always had that mentality of like, just never backing down from the obstacles and the challenges. And to a certain degree, I still have that feeling, even with this kind of physical thing. Like, I'm not giving in. I'm not giving up. I know that there are so many people who are pulling for me. My group members down here all said prayers and sent me, cards and texts, and it was amazing to be uplifted from that. And this is from a guy who you wouldn't think like I'm going to get uplifted from people texting me or sending me a card.
Yeah.
But I was. It was nice to know people were thinking about me and hoping the best for me. And and I'm just, I just want to continue to move forward and get better day by day in recovery and physically. I love my life. I love what's, you know what I mean? I wouldn't trade, I would not trade, and this is for real.
Yeah.
I would not trade my old life if I had my legs and everything. I would not trade that old life for the life I have today. If I had to be drunk and high to have my legs back, I'd rather be who I am today.
Yeah.
You know, I can't go back to that because I was a disgrace. I hurt everybody I loved. My best friends were like, dude, I love you. Please don't ever come to my house again.
Yeah.
I don't want that. Today I struggle with some physical stuff.
Yeah.
But people want me around. I was down in visiting friends in Georgia and in South Carolina. The people in Georgia want me to come down and see them again. The people in South Carolina want me to buy a house near them. Like that was not my experience, 30 something years ago. They were like, we don't want you here. We're going to build a 10-foot fence and keep you on the other side. Please don't come near our son. You know what I mean? That's how their attitude was to me. And now today, I'm like a valued member of their family. They want me there. They want me to be down. They want me to be part of what's going on. And that I owe that all to this 12-step process.
Yeah.
This life has been given to me through doing the 12 steps in my life, helping other people.
Yeah.
I just been blessed with so much good stuff.
Yeah. Like that's true. Let's talk about your support network. Let's get saucy a little bit. So like your wife also is in recovery.
Yes.
How beneficial it is to have somebody, and you guys have been together for a long time.
25 years.
25 years. You're in recovery you're gonna hit 33 next week.
And the same for her. She'll have 33 years 2 months after me.
2 months after you.
Yes.
How essential was it for you to have somebody who, for the lack of better term, who is not a normie, could be there for you and understand it while you went through?
So when I first got sober, my girlfriend and my future ex-wife was another member of recovery with me, and she has struggled with her addiction and her alcoholism for the last 30 something years.
Yeah.
So it was much tougher when I had somebody who was struggling with this, but I mean, I've never had anybody who was active when I was in recovery. Was actively like saying, "Hey, I'm a regular drinker. I'm a regular, I'm gonna be able to smoke pot or take pills." I've never had anybody like that in my life when I've been sober, so I can't say how it is comparatively.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that it's immensely important to me that I have somebody who has the same kind of values I do.
Yeah.
Me and my wife have similar values, similar outlook to recovery, about service to others, about inviting people into our home, about how important recovery is. We differ on a lot of things as far as the way we look at certain aspects of recovery, but we're both super dedicated to recovery process itself. We both sponsor a lot of people. We both are active in speaking. We're both active in the group as far as even though I got 33 years, I mean, the best part of, the service I do is making coffee, setting up and cleaning up. That's really super important to me because it keeps me remembering that I'm no different than you. If you got 33 days and I got 33 years, we're the same in that respect, right? It's like, I'm just another recovering alcoholic and drug addict, just like you. And I don't know if it's something that somebody with a week or 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years can say that sparks something in me that keeps me sober and happy that day, or changes the way I look at something. And having my wife as a support mechanism is super important to me. I have a pretty big support group. I have like 5 or 10 guys that I talk to on a pretty regular basis. 5 or 6 of them are guys I sponsor. I have a sponsor. I have a few other guys who are super important in my group that I neither sponsor or, you know what I mean? But they're guys that I talk to on a pretty regular basis about real life and about the struggles of being a husband and a father and a business owner And, going through the COVID process, changed a lot of people, and how they made money and their financial stability. So I've been able to bounce a lot of these things off of those guys.
Yeah.
And, when I first got sober, it wasn't easy to talk about certain things that made me not, in my own eyes, look like a man.
Yeah.
Right? Men don't talk about this. Men don't cry. And men don't, all that other crap that came out of being brought up in the 70s. You know what I mean? And every generation gets a little better. I'm sure, you know what I mean? My kids are more open about things than I was.
Yeah.
But I just think that the support group is super important, and and learning the trust, and learning boundaries, is important too, because you don't,
Boundaries, nice.
yeah, because you can't. Not everybody needs to know everything. I'm a lucky guy in the sense that I'm able to share almost every single thing about myself outwardly in front of everybody, because I don't have any job that I got to worry about somebody coming back to me or whatever. Not everybody has that same thing, so there are some boundaries we need to learn. But I found it so beneficial to be able to talk to people about my fears, my uncomfortabilities, my shortcomings, and to be able to talk about it in a large group. It has brought me a lot of humility, I guess is the word, right? When I'm out here in front of 15 or 20 people talking about the mistakes I made yesterday, the mistakes I still make at 33 years, and I'm still trying to get better, and I still stumble, and I make mistakes, and I say things I shouldn't, and I do things I shouldn't. But I try that same process over. I wake up the next day and I go, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to ask God for direction. I'm going to call my sponsor. I'm going to call the sponsees. I'm going to call that guy up that I said something stupid to and apologize. You know what I mean? I'm going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I realize it, because that's the keys to freedom for me.
That's beautifully said. I don't know if you could answer that question, because but like, what is because we humans and people in the room of like a 12-step program gravitate toward each other, and as a human being you can find like comfort into somebody else. What would be, in your opinion, an organic way to get romantically involved with somebody, if you have like, like support as, and use them as a support network? Because you're one of the lucky few who has been with the same person for 25 years.
Yes.
And some others, try to probably emulate your way, or and ended up putting themselves in jeopardy.
So my first relationship in recovery was with another person with only 6 months. I had 6 months. She had 6 months. It did not end well.
Yeah.
Because the same person who we came in with was the same person now we're in this relationship with all the character flaws and with all my insecurities and my anger and all this other stuff. And it didn't work out so well. When me and my current wife met, we both had 7 years.
Okay.
So we were well more into our recovery, grounded in our own recovery with our own support system. So we were both bringing an equal amount of recovery to the table. From my experience, early relationships in recovery have a very small percentage of working out. I understand why we get into them. We come into recovery, we're open and honest and vulnerable to people.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, we develop such attachments and such attraction to people's soul, right? People are being honest, they're open, they're so vulnerable. You become attracted to that. But what happens is, if we don't stay on that path and we get sidetracked by, oh, who is she talking to? Who is she looking at? Is she still interested in all this? Then the other parts come in, and then it eats away. In one of our books, it talks about that, fear is the termite that ceaselessly eats at the foundation of the life that we're trying to build. And no more have I ever seen it true than in relationships. Fear and insecurity comes in and really destroys your ability to be like loving and tender and caring. Because when we're here doing what we do, I'm not worried if you're with me or not. I'm worried that you stay sober, you stay clean, you gain happiness, right? Once we're involved, now I care that you do that and I'm involved in that I come along. right? I don't want you to get healthy and better and then leave me. Right? I'm not that spiritually grounded, right? So
Yeah.
then there's the attachment that gets attached, right? When I
Yeah.
do this with a sponsee, if a guy tells me after 2 years, hey, I want to go and work with somebody else, I'm not heartbroken and shattered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I go, okay, man, if you think that's what's best for your recovery, you do it. I'm always here if you need to talk. Right? If my wife told me after 5 years, said, hey, listen, this is as far as I want to go, and I want to go with somebody else, I don't think I'd be as kind and understanding.
Yeah.
I'd be shattered inside.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the hard part when we get romantically involved early on in recovery. We don't have the balance. We don't have, the boundaries. We don't have the support. I just seen so many problems with it. I'm not saying, and lots of people do it, and I don't know that many have been successful.
Yeah. Like I get you, and thanks for sharing, because like from what I get from it, it's like it's it's not only time of recovery that you have under your belt, but also mindset. Like you said, like you had your support network, you had everything set up to build, and your wife had everything set up already to build, to support her sobriety, and you guys, build your own thing together.
Yeah. Yes, if you meet somebody in your home group and you're both early in recovery, it can become a big problem, because now when you go to your home group, now you're presented with hurt feelings and who's talking to who and who's on whose side and all these other things that have no place in a 12-step recovery.
Yeah.
But we're human, right? We're human, and those things are going to happen if relationships are formed. Like, do I sit with you? Do I talk to you? Are you mad at me if I talk to your friend? You know what I mean? Like, all these things go on. So I think, for those newcomers out there who are venturing into this, I would say it's one of the suggestions that's not in the big book that I think is super important, is give yourself that year. If you love somebody, they'll love you in a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're getting into it because what if they find somebody else? Well, then it wasn't the right person anyway. Right? That would be my take on it. Then it wasn't the right person anyway. And focus on yourself for that year. Give yourself a break. Keep the focus on yourself. Gain some real solid recovery. And then, if you meet somebody and you guys have similar interests and similar, vision for your future, then go for it. You know what I mean? But like early on, what's attracting us is probably the same thing that attracted us to the other nonsense that we got involved in when we were out there. And it's probably, you're probably saving yourself some heartache.
Yeah, true that. Let's finish up with this before I give you the mic. Service. You, Joe, do a lot of service. You always invite people at your home. You sponsor a lot of people. Like, why? What do you get from it? Like, from like sponsoring so many people and trying to,
Well, I think that there's different levels. So when you sponsor people and we go through this 12-step process, what happens for me is I get to see the light go on in somebody else's eyes.
Oh, yeah.
That they have a way out, right? And then as we go through the different steps in the program, you can see, the change in mentality for people. They start to really believe and they start to implement. And, when weeks turn to months and months turn to years, you can see the development of somebody. So in the service part of 12-stepping somebody, that is huge. And it reaffirms what I believe to be the truth.
Yeah.
When I take them through. The other part is being connected, right? If I just go to meetings and, I show up late or I leave early, I leave early and I'm not involved, I'm kind of like a visitor. Yeah. I'm not really a part of. So when I have a service commitment, like setting up the meeting, being the literature person, cleaning up the coffee, whatever, I really become a member of the group.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not a visitor. I'm a member of the group. And there's a connectedness, right? The other part is that I believe this 12-step process saved my life.
Yeah.
And I owe it to this 12-step process, these meetings, these fellowships that I go to. I owe it to them to continue to go back and tell people there's a way out.
Yeah.
You don't have to pick up your first drink. You don't have to pick up a drink or a drug a day at a time for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because I'm here for keeps. My goal is to never drink again, a day at a time for the rest of my life. Will that happen? I don't know. I could lose sanity. I could lose step two again, right?
Yeah.
But that's what would have to happen, because drinking and getting high is never going to fix the problems I have. So if there's a part of me that thinks that, a drink is a good idea, I must be crazy.
Yeah.
If there's a part of me that thinks smoking crack is ever going to solve any of my problems, I must be crazy. Right? So, you know, I just, I love recovery. I want to be here forever. I want to do whatever it takes to continue to stay here. And if that involves around prayer and meditation every day, helping other people, being committed to my home group and being committed to service, speaking, picking people up for meetings, making coffee, giving back, like you said, we invite people to our house. We do a little bit more.
Yeah, you go above and beyond, man. Honestly.
Because people did it to me when I first got sober. People gave me a place to live. So I try to always remember that that's what was given me. It was freely given me. Somebody gave me a place to live when my own family didn't want me in the house. So I try to repay that, even in the little amount that I do, where barbecues are at my house or just coming to my house and doing 12-step work. And, just invite people into our life, because we want to tell you that this is a good way of life. There's a lot of fun here. We are not a glum lot. We are not a glum lot. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of fun, even with my current situation.
Yeah.
Lots of laughter. And, for you guys who are out there, come join us. Come down, check it out, make a lot of different meetings, figure out where you fit best. You'll find what fellowship and what meetings fit you. Just because you might not like some meetings, try some others. You know, they're all a little bit different, which we talked about earlier about the
different rules that were like allowed and
I lost the word for a second. I think it's yeah, but just check out a lot of different meetings and you'll figure out where you fit.
That's great. All right, so we reached the end of this interview. I'm giving you your mic. Do you want to talk about anything? What you have cooking? What do you like to say to the audience?
I'm looking forward to football season.
Hell yeah, baby!
Got the Steeler game coming up on next Sunday, and I'm really psyched. I'm hoping to do another day and another year. My anniversary's coming up in about 3 weeks. And just living this life, this simple life of trying to help people and staying clean and sober and being a good husband and being a good father and being a good brother, and just I'm so blessed, because like I said, people like me spent most of their life in prison, and that I'm not there today is only because somebody introduced me to this 12-step way of life, and I met some great people who gave me attention and understanding and offered me a way out, and I've taken it. So that's really all I want. Like, God bless everybody, and I hope you find the place that you feel most comfortable.
Amen to that. All right, guys, that was it for this interview. I will see you guys for the conclusion. Bye. All right, that's it for episode number 40. Big thanks to Joe D for his wisdom and sharing his story with us, guys. Sorry a little bit for the quality of the audio. We recorded on the beach. I was able to clean most of the sound of the wave, but sometimes if you hear that kind of echo, it's because the waves were pretty loud. Also, like, I feel like I'm yelling a little bit because yes, the waves again. But overall, I'm satisfied with the quality of the episode, and I hope that you guys will be too. As always, follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and support us on Patreon. Alright, guys, I will see you next week. Bye.